Um, I think I was around probably 15, 16 years old, and I just started a new high school the year before, and I met a couple of friends, and we were all into the same kind of music and stuff, so we had that in common. And two of the guys in particular were both vegetarian, and I was pretty young at this point, and I didn't really know much about vegetarianism other than the obvious things. Um, and I just remember asking them why they were vegetarian. Um, and both of the guys actually had been raised vegetarian by their parents or by their mothers since birth. And they just kind of explained to me their reasons and why their parents raised them that way, mainly for animal rights reasons, and I guess it was a bit more of just a personal choice. And then not too long after that, I started going to some local hardcore shows in the area when I was about, sort of 16. And then I started meeting a bunch of people who were vegan as well, and the same thing again. I just got really curious, and I was asking them why they were vegan, and trying to understand the difference between veganism and vegetarianism, and what was the point of taking it one step further. And by this stage, I decided to go vegetarian for 2 weeks just to try it out, just because it was something different. Not necessarily that I'd totally believed or in all the reasonings behind it. I just, wanted to try something new, I guess. And then when I did that, the more I discovered about a vegetarian diet, and the more research I did online and into things like animal cruelty and just the processes used to get people's food on their plate, I started learning more and more that I didn't like. And then since I was meeting more and more vegans, it sounded like something that I wanted to sort of achieve that as well. There was a bit more that I could do, and I did more research and found out more things I didn't like to do with, other aspects of people's general diet, like the milk industry. And so I decided to go vegan, and I've been vegan now for 13 and a half years, and I love it. It's still a really new thing to a lot of people because it's obviously not super common. So, people close to me, like my parents and friends, they learn a lot more about it just through knowing me or knowing other vegans. And so my parents, once they got over the fact I was doing something really different and it was inconvenient for them a little bit, they were really supportive and kind of understood exactly why I decided to go vegan. So it's funny, like people close to me sort of understand it a little more, but it's still such an uncommon thing in, general society. But having said that, in the 13 years since I've been vegan, I've noticed things like way more dietary options for vegans and vegetarians. When I first went vegan, you'd go to my local supermarket and you could maybe find some tofu and some soy milk and one brand that maybe did some vegetarian sausages, and that was just about it. And nowadays there's a whole aisle of the supermarket that's all health food and diet related food, and there's, like 70% vegan stuff just in one massive aisle of the supermarket. So it's cool to see that it's becoming more popular, because it is a really positive thing, and the more popular it gets, the more normal it will seem to most people, I think. And that can only be a good thing. Yeah, I'm not sure it'll ever become completely mainstream. I think it seems to be more and more normal these days. For example, you might tell someone that you're a vegan, and only 50% of the time they think it's really weird and ask you a bunch of questions why, and the other half of the time they go, oh, okay, yeah, one of my friends is vegan. There's so many vegan restaurants around these days opening up. It's putting a bit more of a spotlight on it and bringing it to more people's attention. So even if it's not turning people vegan or vegetarian, at least it's creating a little bit of awareness, and people sort of know about it and understand the reasons why people like myself decide to be vegan. When I first went vegan, I mainly was concerned with learning about the animal cruelty side of things, because that was the most important thing to me. You know, I didn't feel like I wanted to keep consuming products and supporting products which inflicted harm on other animals. You know, I've always been an animal lover, and until I learned about veganism, I didn't really realize that what I was doing affected animals, you know, detrimentally. So I guess, yeah, I first began to focus on the animal cruelty side of things, and then when I actually became vegan and started learning more and more, I started learning there are other aspects of the lifestyle that sort of were positive as well, or attempting to be a positive thing, and they include like just the impact on our own health. You know, there's so many health benefits of this kind of diet. A lot of people think the contrary. They think that it can be really bad for you and that you can get really skinny and sick all the time, and it's actually not true. You can be vegan and be super healthy. It just depends on how you want to eat. It's the same as an omnivore. If they want to eat just nothing but McDonald's all day long, of course they're going to be unhealthy, but if they eat the right balanced diet, then they'll be fine. It's the same for a vegan. It's so easy for us to get all our nutrients and iron and vitamins. You just have to be a little bit more clever about it, I guess, and a bit more well-informed. And then, of course, there's the environmental side of things, which I never focused on in the beginning, but as I said, the more I learnt about things, the more I realised that, you know, by boycotting the meat industry, if everyone did that, it would actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions a lot, because the meat industry is the #1 contributor to greenhouse gases, even more than transport. So obviously for one person to make a difference, it's very hard, but if everybody thinks the same and wants to work towards a positive goal, then we can make a good change. Yeah, absolutely, because we're the kind of key species, I guess. We're the ones that can make a difference. I think it's great that there's a lot of people out there doing what they can, but I also think that the human race has a long way to go and a lot to learn before we can, I don't know, achieve a perfect state of peace with everything. It's going to take a long time, but there's even steps moving forward towards that now, such as the cultured beef. I don't know if you know much about that, but you know, they're basically trying to grow meat in a lab because it's going to take up less land space, less resources like water, less power, electricity, than growing cattle, livestock for food the way we do it conventionally. So that's something that we're working towards, because, you know, it might seem weird at this stage, but the end goal is going to be far better for ourselves, the animals, and the environment. I think the thing that would upset me most is just people's their inability to accept change, I guess. You know, like, I try and, when I talk about veganism or when people ask me questions, I try and put it in a way that I'm just informing them. You know, I never want to seem like a preachy guy, although I'm sure sometimes it must come across that way. But people have this amazing ability to just be stuck in their ways and not care about anything. And you can put the best argument in front of them ever, and you know, it will prove to them that what they're doing is maybe bad and what you want to achieve is a good thing. And at the end of the day, they'll see that and then they'll still just go, oh well, I don't care, I'm just going to do what I want. So yeah, the fact that it's kind of difficult to get someone to change for the good, if they don't want that change. You know, everyone has to have the right attitude to support it, and that's the most frustrating part, when you try and expose people to positive change and their attitude is just, oh well, you're just one person, there's nothing you can do, so I'm just going to keep doing whatever and it's just the same as everyone else. It's pretty hard to deal with sometimes. Yeah, that is the biggest misconceptions are probably that the diet can be really harmful or just not good for you. You know, like a lot of people tell me that I'm a skinny guy, which is true. I am a skinny guy, and they attribute that to the fact that I'm vegan. But in actual fact, in the whole time I've been vegan, I've actually put on weight. I've always been a skinny guy when I ate meat, when I ate dairy and cheese and whatever. So that's, you know, it's all about how you plan your diet and whether you're eating healthily. So if I want to put on loads of weight, I can do that. If I want to lose weight on the vegan diet, I can do that too. It's all down to your actual diet, not the fact that you don't eat meat. So yeah, and I'm a pretty good example, I think, that I've never had an illness worse than sort of the common cold or flu in the 13.5 years I've been vegan. You know, you just have to do your research into where you get your vitamins and nutrients from, and I think you'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely easy for someone to think that a vegan lifestyle is Yeah, so Adelaide's a small place, just under 1 million people there, and we have, I think, about at least 10 or 15 vegan vegetarian restaurants, like numerous health food stores. So for someone to say it's inconvenient isn't necessarily untrue, but right now it's more convenient than ever, or easy. I personally think it's important, but it's all down to the individual. You know, I have friends in bands who have more followers than me, or people who are actors or whatever, and it's just up to them whether they want to promote something positive or not promote anything at all, or just be themselves. You know, I don't think it's a really cool idea to be in a position of influence and just convey messages like, oh, you know, drugs and alcohol are cool because that's what I do every day on tour or whatever. I am personally not like that, and it would be nice if everybody who was in a position of influence or power would use that power to convey positive messages to their followers. But it's, yeah, like I said, it's just up to each person, I think. Yeah. Yeah, the Carly Ryan Foundation, Sonia Ryan, who runs the foundation, is a close friend of mine now, and I met her not too long after her daughter was killed. And her daughter was actually a customer at a local sort of like a alternative punk hardcore music fashion store in Adelaide. And I had a bunch of friends that worked in the store, and so they knew Carly on a daily basis and met Sonia through her bringing Carly to the store. And then they introduced me to Sonia. And it was just by chance that we met one day in Adelaide, and we hit it off and became friends. And she just told me about everything that had happened in the foundation, and I felt connected to that because, you know, I personally have had my identity, I don't want to say stolen, but people have impersonated me online on the internet before, and I don't know what those people's motives were, but you know, I don't ever really think that's a good thing, even if they're just being silly and pretending to be you so they can get some kind of attention from people, or whether they're doing something more sinister with it. It's just not a very nice thing to do. So since Sonia was a good friend of mine and I truly believe in the message she's trying to send, I decided to do anything I could to help. Yeah, definitely. It's I mean, just through knowing Sonia, I hear stories all the time about people's identities being stolen and used to do harmful things to young people. And I mean, mean, she tells me every time that the police catch someone who was trying to do that through, you know, their help, or the young person contacting the Carly Ryan Foundation because they think that there's somebody who's trying to harm them in some way through stolen identity. So it's definitely it's a really prominent thing. It's happening all the time, and it's something that not too many people think about or know about, especially, you know, you yourself. When you get online and you just start talking to somebody, there's not a lot of ways that you can be sure that it is the actual person on the other end that you're speaking with. So that's the whole point of the Carly Ryan Foundation, is to create that awareness, especially amongst young people who can be a bit more naive when dealing with those sorts of situations. And yeah, to just help them be a bit more aware and look out for signs of how they can avoid bad things. They have a website. I think it's just carlyryanfoundation.com, or maybe .com.au. But you can find them on Facebook and just by Googling. And they have a bunch of information on the website. But even just, you know, pointing your friends in that direction, they have steps you can take to help determine whether or not somebody you are speaking to is a real person or not. Yeah, I think you just have to be a little bit smart and try and be realistic as well. It's just a little passion project, and it's actually taken quite a while to get happening, since I'm so busy with I Killed the Prom Queen at the moment and recording this album. So it's just a little thing. I've always been interested in fashion and clothing and stuff like that, especially from over this side of the world. The Scandinavian fashion is my favourite. So yeah, it's just a little something I wanted to start because I just think it would be fun. It's still very much in the idea stages, but I'm collaborating with some really cool people and good friends of mine, so I think it's going to be something fun. It's a little of both, actually. I would like it to be sort of like a legitimate fashion brand. I don't really, I guess I don't really like the way that a lot of people like myself in bands just use that position to make a quick buck by just putting any old print on a t-shirt and putting their name to it and selling it. So this is something more, like I said, it's more of a passion thing for me. So I would like it to be something that I would want to wear myself and then make that available to other people.